Hi, and welcome to this new episode. I am super excited to share this one with you because today I have an exclusive conversation with Mark Parkins. And Mark has 4 decades as a musician under his belt and more than 25 years running a successful not home recording, a successful recording studio, which he built entirely by himself. And now he's actually teaching musicians how to get the most out of their own home recording studios. And the conversation that we had, I mentioned it at one point, has been so valuable for me. I mean, I told him that as part of my university bachelor's diploma, one of the lessons I had was on recording yourself. Obviously, I studied vocals and singing, so there was a lot going out there. But one semester, I had a class that was all about recording. And what I've learned in this conversation with Mark has been way more valuable than anything I've learned at school. So you are in for a treat. He's going to be talking about the different microphones that you can use, how you can set up your room the right way to record yourself the best. The three, like he's calling it the triangle, to get the most out of this whole process, basically. And I've took some more notes. Oh, yes, he's going to talk about the mixing and the mastering process and what the difference is between the two and the most important ingredient to really, really help you master this whole journey. So what Mark does, I invited him because many of our singers in the Singing Insiders community, they tell me, I want to record myself, but I don't know how to. And that's exactly what Mark teaches. At the end of our conversation, you'll also hear what his plans are to keep this journey going. So if you are interested to keep working with Mark, I will share in the description here down below a few links with you so that you can get in touch with him and sign up for his waitlist for his course coming out very, very soon. So I am super excited to share this conversation with you. And let's dive into it. Here we go. All right. Well, hi, Mark. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation together. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
Well, I'm excited you took the time to be here. And I invited you on this podcast because we first connected in a group with fellow entrepreneurs. And I saw what you do in your business, and I thought it was just amazing. So tell me a little bit about what you do so that people can get to know you a little bit better.
I just try to help musicians, especially vocalists, record their own music at home to the highest quality possible, because the way the industry's moved on now, you can do everything you need to do at home on a computer, on a tablet, even on a phone. And it's not so much about having the technology at your fingertips now. It's about having the skill sets to make the most of that technology. And that's something that everybody can learn, really. And especially if you're a musician, you've already shown you have the aptitude to learn something. So it's just about helping you show yourself to the best ability you possibly can. Because, I mean, the way it is now, your audience expects high quality audio and high quality video, and they expect a high quality product. And so, I like to help people get that high quality product to them, basically.
That's amazing. And that's exactly why I thought I wanted to connect with you, because one of the most frequently asked questions that I get in our community, the Singing Insiders, is how can I record myself and make it sound good? And I know we can start from the basics where you're just taking out your phone and recording yourself on your phone, but you're going further than that. You're going into home recording. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is the essential gear that like beginner singers would have to get started with this?
Well, I mean, most people have a computer at home now, whether it's a laptop or a desktop. So you've already got access to the hardware that you really need. You can get the software, which we call a digital audio workstation or a DAW. You can get free versions of that, or you can get a whole variety of different systems depending on whether you're on Mac or Windows and how proficient you are and what you want to do. But they're all pretty much very easy to get along with now. They've made everything very intuitive to use. So you can use your inbuilt microphone even at a push on your computer if you wanted to. But if you want to get a bit better quality, then you'll be needing to invest in a microphone. Now, you could start with a USB microphone where it converts the signal, the analog signal that we speak or we sing. It will then convert that to a digital signal within the microphone and then give it straight to your computer. And then you can just put that straight into your software and you've got your voice on the computer. That's the beginner's level. Or if you want to go up a level from that, then we have just a dedicated microphone by itself, and then you have an audio interface which basically takes the analog signal from your microphone, converts it to digital in a slightly higher quality way, and then sticks it on your computer for you from there. And essentially, that's all you need to get started, really. I mean, you'll need something to listen back to it, but we all have headphones anyway. I mean, everybody has a set of headphones or a set of speakers. I mean, your computer has an inbuilt speaker on it, as it is anyway. Again, the inbuilt speaker is going to be very basic quality. It's enough to let you know if you've got the words right and if the music's playing in time and everything. But when you come to mixing, you really need to be able to hear the bass and the treble and the nuances of the sound so that you can mix it to the highest standard possible. And then you'll be looking at either a set of headphones or a set of better speakers or studio monitors, as we call them. But these are all things that you can start very cheaply. I mean, you can get basic speakers and basic headphones for £20, €20, you know, or even you can get a basic microphone for £10, £20. And then it really is just how high do you want the quality to go after that? I mean, it's often good to cut your teeth with the cheap stuff, basically, and so you're not throwing lots of money at it. And then when you know that it's really for you and you enjoy what you're doing, then you can start investing in better quality. You'd start maybe with a better microphone. You've got dynamic microphones, which are the sort of microphone you see singers on stage using, the handheld ones. The Shure SM58 is a very, very well-known microphone that's just an industry standard. I mean, that's about £100, £120 brand new, but you can get cheap copies of that for like £20, £30. Behringer do some excellent quality microphones, which you can get the XM series, and they'll 15, 20 quid, and you've got a handheld microphone that is not bad at all. If you wanted to go up again from that, then you can get what we call a condenser mic, and a condenser mic requires power to make it work, basically. So you'd need an audio interface to give it the power to make it work. But because it's got power, it's a lot more sensitive. Now, this means that you will get a very nice sounding voice, or if you put it in front of your guitar or an instrument that you play, you'll get a very nice sounding instrument. But it also means that it picks up the room that you're in a lot better. Mm-hmm. So you'll get the room on the sound. So once you start moving up, you see there become more and more stages to it. So the better quality microphone you've got, the more you have to think about where you're going to record yourself. You have to try and dampen the room around you so that when you speak, your voice is hitting all the walls and bouncing off those walls and flying off in every direction. And what you want is just the voice that's come out of your mouth onto the microphone. But every time that a reflection comes off a wall or the floor or the ceiling and comes into your microphone, that's colouring the sound. It's what we mean. You hear reverb and echo on every recording you've ever heard has had reverb or echo on the voice, because that's how we hear the voice normally, and that's how it sounds good. But we want to control that reverb and that echo. We don't want the room just to say, hey, this is the reverb you're going to have on your voice, live with it. We want a nice dry sound to be recorded so that we can then put the exact effect on it that we want, basically. So it's a never-ending. I mean, you could go on forever. I mean, when I've run a recording studio for over 25 years, and just the little bit of rack unit that converts the signal from analog to digital is over £1,000. But that's not even the sound card in the computer or the microphone or anything. That's just the bit that converts the sound. But that does 8 channels for me, you see. So I can record lots of musicians at the same time. For like a drum kit, I might want 8 or even 10 mics on a drum kit. But if you're just recording at home for yourself and you're recording one track at a time, you don't need all those extra channels. You can look at just getting a nice simple audio interface, and you can get something by, say, Focusrite for 60 or 80 quid. And like, they are incredible quality. They'll give you 2 channels, left and right going in, and they'll give you like left and right for your speakers coming out and headphone sockets on them. And the quality is crystal clear. You can't fault it, and it's more than good enough for you to record a song and to release it to the world. What matters, as long as you've got a sound that is about so should we say 80% perfect compared to what your professional studio will like have with their like £2,000 microphone and their £10,000 rack interface and all that. As long as you get to about 80% of that quality and the sound is clear, it's not cluttered, the person can hear what's going on, and then you mix it in a good manner, then the average person is not going to worry. They won't know the difference. If I recorded something on like a Focusrite interface with an £80 condenser microphone, but recorded it well and mixed it well and mastered it well, and then I put that alongside something that was recorded with a £2,000 mic in a £10,000 interface, unless you did an A/B test where you listen to one then you listen to the other straight side by side, you probably wouldn't notice a difference. It's the emperor's new clothes when it comes down to it. And what matters more is your performance. Yeah, the quality of your song that you're recording, the quality of the way you deliver that song, and that's what people engage with. I mean, if we go back to like 100 years ago, you got the blues artists back in the blues scene, where they basically used to stick a guitarist with an acoustic guitar and a voice in front of one microphone, and they had a production line of them going round and round and round. And if you listen back to those recordings now, they're a bit grainy and they're not crystal clear. They're not the standard that your modern day musician is producing. But how many people still listen to those songs because they are masterpieces of songs? They are like they're it's almost impossible to put into words how the emotion that those people get into their music. Yeah. So I think what people get you can get tied up on worrying that I haven't got the best equipment, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, when in reality the thing you need is yourself and your ability, and you're just to learn the skills that are within your control. So, and that's within all of us now. Yeah, that's basically you've got that under your control. You just need to like go out and learn the skills and techniques that are available to you. And I mean, the way the digital world is now, we can learn whatever we want to learn digitally from anywhere in the world. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God. You have shared so many great things. I was taking notes while you were talking. And I think what you've just hit on is exactly why I wanted to bring our two worlds together. Because you were talking about the performance, the emotion in the song. Like, you need to have your skills developed to record something that is, nice sounding. And I obviously teach the singers how to sing and how to control their voices. I teach that aspect, and you complete that with the recording aspect. So I think our two worlds blend beautifully. So thank you for sharing that, because that is oftentimes something that singers, they forget. They're recording themselves and then they forget about their vocal techniques, or they're forgetting about the emotion or the storytelling of the song because they're so focused on getting that perfect recording. So it's really a blend of those two worlds coming together. So thank you for that.
Totally. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
how much? If you think back to some of the best songs you've ever listened to over like decades and decades, they're not always perfect performances. I mean, some of the greatest art. I mean, the Beatles.
Yes.
I mean, they're not the best drummer in the world, not the best bass player, or the best guitarist in the world. They're not even the best singers in the world by any stretch. But damn, could they write a good song, and could they convey the emotion of that song in a way that touched the hearts of millions upon millions of people? I mean,
Yes.
they're no Whitney Houston when it comes down to singing, but damn, who doesn't like listening to John Lennon and Paul McCartney sing? They've got something in them, yeah.
We could end the conversation right here. This is the juiciest thing that they need to take away from this podcast episode. But I want to go deeper into some things that you said, because you shared so much with us, and I love it. Let's go back to the essentials for the people that don't know anything about recording. You were talking about mixing, mastering, like all those terms. Can you give us an idea of what the process is and what that means? So for someone that is a super beginner, they're recording themselves. What does mixing and mastering mean?
Right, well, let's go to very simplest things. Just an instrument and a voice. It could be a piano, It could be a guitar. And when you record it, you'll record them. You might record them at the same time, or you might record them at different times to each other. But what you'll do is you'll put them onto two different tracks in your what we call a multi-track recorder, so that then you can change the volume and you can put effects on each of them different from each other. So then the mixing comes about. We want to tidy up the sound. So you want to take when you press record, there will be some time at the beginning and some time at the end when there was nothing being recorded, but there will be little bits of noise that have been picked up on the microphone or the string sound. So what we call top and tail. So we take off the noise at the start and the beginning. Then we'll be listening back, and it's, does it sound like a sound that we like? Is it too trebly? Is it a bit scratchy in the upper frequencies, or does the bottom end, does it boom a bit, or does it sound a bit muddled? So then we use equalization, which is essentially what we've had on music like equipment for forever, like your bass, your middle, your treble, and on the more expensive hi-fis in the past, they'd have what they called a graphic equalizer, which split those into more channels. And then you can either have channels of equalize where you just lift a bar up and that will affect that frequency range, or we have what we call a parametric equalizer, which is just basically a lot more powerful, but you don't have to worry about how that works right now. It's just another type of equalizer. So we would then use that equalizer on each of these tracks, and we'd tweak them until we're really happy with the sound. And then we'd look at the volume of them. Like, you get very percussive, like the voice and the piano and the guitar are all good examples because they vary in their volumes quite a lot throughout a performance. Yeah, quite percussive. The guitar and the piano can be quite percussive, especially if you don't quite hit it with the same intensity at different points. So we'd use what we call a compressor, and a compressor basically brings it, you set a level, and at that point it stops the sound getting any louder, and then you bring up the volume of all the quiet bits, so you're reducing the difference between the quietest bits and the loudest bits, so that the person, for instance with the voice, it might be that when you're singing a quiet bit, your voice is getting lost behind the instrument a bit. But a compressor would bring that volume up so that then you can sit on top of the instrument again and the listener can hear it. So we would basically use a compressor to balance the two tracks so that they're even throughout, but also so they have the dynamics that we want within the music, because we don't want everything flat and lifeless, because again, this is a problem that a lot of beginners get into. And if anybody sort of was listening to music 20 years ago, you might remember a term called the loudness wars, and this was especially prevalent in the rock and metal scene when digital recording first came in around the year 2000 or so. It came that instead of seeing a needle on a display just bounce backwards and forwards for your volume, we could now see the volume on the screen, and we could tell exactly how much we could push that volume to get it louder and louder and louder without distorting. And we got ever better tools to basically compress the sound even more. And you had bands basically competing to make their music louder than everybody else's. And I'm not a fan of that, to be honest. I mean, we went through that. I think we've come out the other side to hopefully, because the more you compress the sound, the more you make the quiet and the loud the same volume, you lose the dynamics, you lose the expression and the emotion again. So this is where the skill comes in. It's about balancing it so that you can hear what's going on throughout the track, but you don't lose the dynamics within the music. So that's your compressor. And then because we've recorded everything dry without any room sound on, hopefully, especially if you've got a digital piano or a guitar that you just plug straight in rather than miking it up, you'll get a very what we call dry sound. It has no reverb on it. So then after the EQ and the compression, we would then put a bit of reverb on top of the sound to make it sound natural. And we hear reverb every day. Everything in the world has reverb on, and so we can hear when things don't sound quite right. So we want it to sound natural to start with. We can be creative, and that's where things like cathedral sounds or lots of delays come in, and you can be creative. But first of all, you want to get the sound sounding natural so that it just sounds pleasant to the ears, and we can worry about being creative on another day. We want to get a good basic sound to start with. That's the holy trinity basically of mixing, is basic EQ, compression and reverb. Now if you look at the effects list on a modern like digital audio workstation, or you go into a shop and look at all the effects pedals a guitar can have, there are so many effects out there that it's crazy. But you can get lost in the effects, and you need to start with just basically the essentials, which are those three, and then you can worry about the others once you have a good song and you decide where you want to embellish it creatively after that. So the mixing, once we've applied those, we then adjust the level of each track so they sit alongside each other and we can hear everything. And that is essentially what mixing is. It's balancing the song so that we can hear all the parts nicely as we perceive them. Sometimes they might want to be a bit quieter, sometimes we might want to hear them a bit louder, but essentially we want to hear all the parts. Now, once we've mixed that, we then mix it down into a stereo waveform. And a stereo waveform is basically an audio file with a left signal and a right signal, the same way you have left and right speakers, so that you get a slightly different sound from each one, so that you get a bit of depth perception in your music. And it just sounds a bit nicer than plain old mono, really. But then we come on to what is mastering. Now, mastering is another animal unto itself. And for many years, like the mastering engineers were almost like given godlike status. You know, they went from studio to studio with like racks that were like tens or twenties or hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of like their dedicated rack equipment, and they would master your track for you. And it was almost like an alchemy. They were, it's they wouldn't depart their secrets to you, and they charged a small fortune for it. But now we know this is just all it is exactly the same effects you use in mixing. You're just applying them to the whole mix itself now. So what we're aiming to do is we want to make the track punch a little bit more, kick a little bit more, so that it sounds vibrant when it's on the stereo. And we want to make it sparkle a bit. It's like adding the icing to a cake. A sponge cake with a bit of jam in the middle is all nice, but you add a bit of icing on top and it becomes spectacular. So that's what we're doing in mastering. And it's quite often, especially for beginners and people at home, can be a good idea to get your mastering done by somebody else. Now you can do it yourself, but what you can find is that a mastering engineer, or it's someone who's mastering it on a different system with different speakers in a different room, might pick up little things in the audio which you hadn't noticed because your particular speakers in your particular room and your ears, they just got hidden by the whole environment. And when they're listened to on a different set of speakers in a different environment, something like the bass is a bit too prominent and it's a bit boom, boom sort of thing, or it's the top end is a bit dull and not quite sparkly enough. So they would then be able to rectify that and put it right. But you can do that yourself, and the way you do that is by having more than one set of speakers, more than one set of headphones, by taking your mix into different rooms and listening to it in different environments. So you'd mix it on your computer in your whatever room you have your music on. Then you'd like check it on the headphones on that system. You might have like some large closed headphones that don't let any sound out, which are the ones you'd be recording your voice with because you don't want the sound in your headphones getting onto your vocal mic. But then you might have your little in-ear headphones which you use with your phone. So then you'd listen back on those as well. And does it sound good on those? Then you might take it into your front room and listen onto the sound bar on your TV, or into your car and listen to the car speakers, or round to your friends, take it to your friend's house and listen to it on their systems. And by listening to it in different environments, you can then pick up these little things that might have been hidden but when you are doing it yourself. And so we can all, as long as you know where the problems are coming, you can work to alleviate those problems and to work around them and to rectify them, basically. Does that answer the question?
Oh my God, yes, thank you. I have been, in my studies, I studied vocals, so singing. And one semester I had everything regarding recording yourself as a course. What you have just shared in these, I don't know how long we've been going, like 20 minutes, is way more insightful than anything that I learned at school, at university. So thank you for sharing that, Mark. You're making it so simple and so doable. I love what you said about the EQ, the compressing, and the reverb. Now I finally understand that it's all about, first of all, making the sound how you want it, then the volume, the dynamics, and then controlling the reverb. And I think that's where my next question goes, and that's a question that I get a lot from singers. The room where you're in has so much influence on your recording. And I know some people like to sing in the shower because there's a lot of reverb naturally there. However, when you're recording yourself, you already mentioned you want to have the most dry sound as possible. How would you achieve that? What are some home tips that you can give us? I'm assuming blankets.
Well, yeah, the voice is dominant in the higher register. It doesn't have a lot of the bottom end, so we don't have to worry about controlling the bass in the room quite so much. Yeah, if we were miking up a bass guitar or a drum kit where you've got the bass drum and the floor toms, then your bass becomes really important and you control it. But voice is, and that sort of instrument is not so much of a problem. So we're just looking at controlling the upper frequencies, really, stopping the obvious reflections. And as you said, yeah, furnishings are the simplest way to do that. A sofa, curtains, rugs on the floor or carpets. Then there's little things like if you're in a room that is imparting a lot of room sound onto your microphone, then think maybe you could like record with a dynamic microphone instead of a condenser microphone. Like I'm recording here on a Shure SM7B, and it's an incredible microphone. I mean, I love it because it just doesn't seem to pick up the room. I can demo tracks of my own music, like singing my vocals in the room that I'm sat in. Nice. And when I listen back to it, I can't really hear the room. And I can then go and do a final take with it because, I mean, this is the microphone that Michael Jackson used. When Michael Jackson got introduced to this microphone around the Thriller era, he never used another microphone after that. It's that good. And every podcast studio you've ever seen, I mean, it seems to have these microphones because they are really good. But you don't have to have one like this. Any dynamic microphone, you'll have to sing a bit closer to it. But that means the closer you get to the microphone, the more dominant your voice is on the signal. So that's not a problem. I mean, you could if you're starting with a cheap £20 dynamic microphone, then get yourself a pop shield, put it in front of it. You could even, if you can't afford a pop shield, get an old wire coat hanger and stretch a pair of tights over the top of it, and then just have that, and that will stop the what you call the plosives, the sort of sounds from hitting the microphone, because it just breaks up the airflow, so it's not bombarding the diaphragm on the microphone. And then another thing you can do is you want put yourself in the center of the room, so you're as far away from all the reflective surfaces as you can possibly be. And also what I like to do is angle myself so I'm not square to a wall, because if you're square to a wall, your sound will hit that wall and it will come straight back at you. And we get what we call, like, audio waves can be either constructive or destructive. Now, you'll see a wave is like that, basically. Yeah. And if the two of if when the sound comes back, if it's in phase with it and it's going up the same time as the two waves are going up at the same time, they will amplify each other. And if one is going up at the certain time, the other one is going down, then they will detract from each other. So if you are facing a wall, then the exact same pattern of waves that you're singing out will be bounced off the wall and they'll come back. And it could be in phase or out of phase with what you're singing, but it will play with the sound you're creating. But if you angle yourself slightly at an angle to the wall, then when your sound hits that wall, it then bounces off in a different direction. So it will go that way, and then it will bounce off over to that wall, and then that wall, and then that wall, and it will have and every time it hits the wall, and every centimeter of air that it travels through, it's being decreased in its volume and its intensity. So the more you can bounce that signal around before it gets to your microphone, the less volume it's going to have when it gets to you. So the less it plays with your sound. That's like, if you do those, you'll get a pretty damn good quality sound to start straight away. Yeah, and perfectly good enough to work with. And then on top of that, I mean, when you really get into it, there is software now that can even remove the room from a mic. I mean, your Zoom software does this, and all these video conferencing softwares. I mean, computers are so damn clever now that they can just take the signal that you're giving to them, and they'll go like, well, I know that's what I want and that's what I don't want. I'll just take that off. And as AI gets even better, it will become even better at it. We have had software that could, for 20 years, we've had what we call mic modeling software. And that could I could tell it what microphone I've recorded the sound with. And then I could tell it what microphone I wanted to record that sound with. And it would then perform an algorithm in the background, which would change the sound to model the expensive microphone. We've had that for 20 years. The quality of that, and it was pretty quite good back then. The quality of what they can do nowadays is just incredible. I use Adobe Premiere, and it's like there's an AI button on that for when I'm recording my voice, and if I press the AI button, it just looks at the sound and it just goes, "Oh, this is what it wants to sound like. Do you agree?" And I'm usually pretty much like, "Yeah, actually, that's not bad," And this is all getting down because what we want to do is the whole idea here is to democratize music creation. Yeah. Like we don't want the great artists and the great songs to be lost because the person that had that idea couldn't afford to record it or didn't have the skills to record it. It's like that's going back to the old days when there were gatekeepers that stopped certain people recording and stopped. If you couldn't afford £1,000 a day, then whoa, hard luck. Go and get a day job. Now you don't need to. That was like £1,000 a day when I was a teenager for a pro recording studio. When I set up my recording studio in 1999, my whole ethos was that I want to make this democratized for the young bands, the young musicians, the struggling artists who don't have day jobs. And so I was charging about £120 a day for full band recording sessions for 8 hours or more a day, depending. We just play until we finished recording, because if we get to 6 o'clock and they're vibing, then I am not going to tell them no, because this is what it's all about, and I'm just doing what I love anyway. And it included it wasn't just the recording. I recorded it, I mixed it, I mastered it. And then the other thing, when I recorded with my old band back in the 90s, not only did we went to an arts council subsidised recording studio that was still £600 a day, right? and then when we got to the end, they gave us our music on a DAT tape, which is digital audio tape. Now, no, but that's great if you have a recording studio, because that's what they mastered things to DAT tapes. But you give me a DAT tape, what am I going to play that on? Because I don't have a DAT tape at home. I'm a musician. I'm an artist. I don't have this equipment. These are really expensive bits of kit. And then I said, well, can I have it on a CD, please? And they're like, oh yeah, that's 25 quid. All right, 25 quid for a CD. And it's so when I set up my studio, every band member got their own CD as part of the process. It's just you got a master that would you could just put away in your drawer and keep safe, and then I gave them all their own copies that they could then go out and play to their heart's content as soon as they got home. So it's just this. I'm a punk at heart. I'm about the democratization of destroy the establishment and bring it to the people sort of thing. And that's and that is what we're at now. It's in the hands of me and you now. It's you have the tools, so you've got all the tools. This is my triangle for music, for the whole ethos is you have the tools and everything that you need to make a professional recording now. You can get those for free. So or just very cheap with a computer and a microphone and that. So the tools are there, and those tools are good enough to give you something that will be good enough to share with the entire world and to make you famous if you want to be famous, or to sell your downloads, or to whatever you want to do with that. Whatever your dream is, you have the tools at your disposal to do that. So then the second side to the triangle is your skill. Can you write a song? Do you understand music theory? Can you play guitar? Can you sing? Can you play piano? Whatever your songs encompass, you have to be able to do that. Now, all that is learning. You just sit yourself down and you learn, and you can then, and when we get down to it, I mean, I don't know if you remember a band called the White Stripes.
Yes.
I love the White Stripes. Oh my God, I still remember when I first heard their first song. And what they are, a drummer, Meg, who's she's actually a damn good drummer. She really is a very good drummer. But on the White Stripes, it is so stripped back and just doom. And then you've got, the guitars, which again are just very simple guitars and a vocal. And but my God, did they become big? Well, how big did the White Stripes become? They are massive. I mean, so you don't need to have a masterful control. You just need to be able to play in time. You need to be able to tune your instrument. You need to be able to sing in key. You need to be able to sing in time. And you need to understand music theory a bit so that you can write a song that it works together. So that the choruses and the verses sit nicely. And but all that is very simple to learn to a certain standard that you can write a good song. So that's two sides of the triangle. Then the third side is your attitude, the way you live your life. If you don't get out of bed every day and play a bit of music, then you're not going to get better. If you don't get round to laying down your tracks, then you're never going to get them recorded. If you don't get off your ass and mix them and master them and promote them, they're never going to get heard. If you don't keep your voice in a good state, you're not going to be able to sing properly. If you don't keep yourself fit and I'm big about fit and healthy. If you don't keep yourself fit and healthy, then you try going out on the road and performing gig after gig after gig, and you will find it damn hard. That Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones, they have been top of the game for well over half a century. Mick Jagger is what is he, 80, 85 now? He still runs 10k or 20k almost every day, especially when he's getting ready to go out on tour. Because have you seen that dude run around the stage and sing at the same? Madonna, another one. The dance routines that she puts on whilst singing. Most people, they get out of breath so they can't even speak when they've been exerting themselves. You need to be able to exert yourself and sing in key and sing for an hour and a half without falling apart. So, that's how you live your life, how you model yourself every day. And this is where people who are famous and people who are successful tend, unless they're very lucky and they're one of these bands that's been created by a record company, but we're not talking about those. We're talking about real musicians who want to create art for people. And it's those people. You might think they became famous really quickly. Oh, didn't they have overnight success? Should we go back and like look how long they were like struggling artists and how much time and effort? I mean, guitarist Steve Vai. I mean, Steve Vai is up there with one of the best guitarists around at the moment. He is an absolute virtuoso of his instrument. The dude practiced for 16 hours a day when he was a teenager. He got up, he plugged in, he played, he went to bed. And that is why he is just a virtuoso of his instrument. And these people have put in time and effort. I mean, they say it's 10,000 hours, don't they, of practice to get yourself to that level. And some people some people are lucky and they're born with almost like an innate feel for something. They still, if they don't put the time in, still won't achieve greatness. They still need to put greatness, but the greatness comes a little bit easier to them. I mean, personally, I first picked up guitar when I was 7. I didn't start singing until I was a teenager. Now, guitar always feels difficult to me, but singing, it's like I don't have to think. It's like when I go on stage, I walk off stage and I'm like, I was on autopilot the whole time. If I go on stage with a guitar, I have to remember every second of it's like, what chords are coming next. But singing doesn't, it's just natural to me. So you'll find the instruments that are natural to you, and they're the ones that you will really like excel at. But when it comes to, even if you don't excel at it, you can still do it and perform. I mean, I've been on stage, I've played keyboards and guitar. I don't call myself a great guitarist or a great keyboard player by any stretch of the imagination, but I was good enough to be on stage in a band and perform for those instruments just because I was helping out friends and things like that. So yeah, it depends what your goals are. What do you want to achieve? What does music mean to you? What do you want? What is the end game for you? Do you want to have 1 million downloads, or do you just want to be on stage and entertain people? I personally, like, I've had one person come up to me and tell me that my lyrics, like, when they heard my song, this is our cassette demo. This wasn't even a proper release. It was like, we used to stand at the door of a nightclub at Rock City in Nottingham, and I'd be like selling these cassettes to people on the way out. And I got this guy walked up to me in a pub like one Saturday afternoon. He's like, "So, dude, like, your lyrics, I just want to tell you, they meant so much to me. It's like I thought I was alone in the world, and I realized I wasn't." And to me, I sat back there and it was like, I'm done. I've achieved everything I want to achieve with my music now. This is end game almost. It's like I touched someone so much that they felt compelled to come and tell me what they thought about my music. That's just I don't care if I like sell 1,000 copies or just 2 copies. If I touch that person with my music, then that's all that matters. But everybody has different goals, so you just got to set your goals and go for them.
Yes, I can hear your passion. It is so beautiful. Just mic drop. No, that's amazing. So, Mark, you have so much to share. And obviously, we could keep talking for hours and hours and hours. And I know you have something coming up, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit? How can people keep working with you if they want to?
Yeah, I'm putting together a course for musicians who want to record themselves at home, basically. It's going to be run as a beta course to start with, because I know what I think you all need to know, but I'm not you. And so with a beta course, I want to work with a very select few number of artists, and then we'll start at the ground zero, and we'll find out where everybody is with their skill sets and how much they know and what equipment they've got, and we'll get everything to a point where we can start. And then it'll be like, well, what are you having trouble with? What don't you understand? What don't you know? And it will be a case of like listening to what they have to say, what the issues are, and then we'll build the course around the real problems that real artists have in their home recordings, basically. And I think it'd probably be like 10 or 20 people max, because so I can't really give my time to any more people than that, like on a one-to-one personal basis. But I mean, I'm going into hospital like very soon, so this will be happening after I come out of hospital. But I want to get a wait list set up so that the people can, like, because whilst I'm in hospital, if we have people who are interested, I'll then basically set a bit of homework to tide over that period, so that everybody knows what equipment they need to have, so they can have a few weeks or a month or so to save a bit of money and get themselves a microphone if they don't have one, or to work out what software they need. And then I'll create like a whole, just a beginner's package of information so that everybody can work through it, so that they understand the basics of like how to plug their equipment in together, how to press record and get the signal in, how to like do this and that. So we're all we want to make sure everybody has the essentials, because I'm very much of the mindset that like I don't like people to look at something and think, oh, I just didn't, that's out of my league, I don't know how to do it. I like to set I like to start at ground zero so that everybody
Mm,
has the skills and the tools and the information they need to like get themselves to the next step and the next step and the next step,
mhm.
because nobody wants to feel left out because they don't know how to plug a microphone into their door and get a signal from their microphone into their into the software, or they plugged it in and like, but I'm not getting a signal in. Why is that? And there's little things that happen in the background of a computer that once you've seen how it all happens, it's like, oh god, is that it? That was so simple. But until you've seen it, it's just like, oh, why isn't this working? Oh, it's all too difficult for me. And that's not what we want. We want to bypass all that. We want to get everybody so that they know how to get their signal into a computer, so then we can start like really working on the recording and the mixing and the mastering basically. And
Nice.
it's I mean, I'm setting up a page so that people can register their interest. And even if you register interest, it wouldn't even mean that you have to do it. This is just so like, I can keep you notified of when I'm ready to go basically, and then I can say, do you think this is something that might interest you? And if it is, then we can move forward.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm basically just putting it together right now, basically, and working out a rough sort of a rough overview of what the course will, because I want to look at everything from recording and songwriting and like all the tools that you need, but there are like some tools that you won't need as much as other tools, so it'll be a case of sort of, well, we'll concentrate a bit more on that than on this, and then we'll like look at doing this in the after that.
Mhm.
And alongside all this course material, then we'll have like one-to-one video calls with people where they can like, we can talk about how their music's sounding and how the mix is coming along and what problems they've got. And then also group video calls where people can like have just put in for a giant Q&A database where we can just answer all the questions, and we'll find the questions that are just bugging all the people, and we can deal with those in one foul swoop and like help lots of people at the same time. So
It sounds
yeah, that's
amazing. Would you be open for me to share the link when I share this episode so that people can sign up
oh,
for that page?
definitely not a problem.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I will put the link in the description of this episode. So, for the listeners tuning in, if you want to get on that list and work with Mark even further after this episode, that's the link you need to get. And Mark, thank you so much for everything that you shared here today. It is so
Oh, and then we've
valuable.
also got the free webinar that I'm
Tell me
going to be
about
doing for
that.
people.
Yes. Tell me
Yeah,
about that.
and this is basically, it's going to be like a condensed version of what the course is going to be about, and
Okay.
this is just something free I'm going to be giving out. I'm going to be giving to all your listeners, like just again, it's going to basically it's going to cover what we've talked about here, but I'll have graphics and images, and I'll have a lot more control over like making sure I've not forgotten anything, because I'm very forgetful about things. I was like, oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
You have
So
so much to share, and I feel like that webinar will be the place to be if people want to, get the full picture. Because today, obviously, we have only scratched the surface.
yeah, it's again, you can give out the link for that when when you put out this podcast,
Yeah.
and that will be basically a free, not just free, but for people who watch it and stay to the end. I'm going to be giving away some free material as well, because I've got lots of ebooks and like things for musicians and vocalists who want to record at home. So I'll include links with free downloads for stuff that people can then just have to take away and learn even more from. So
Wow.
it's going to be well worth it, definitely.
It's so generous of you. Well, I will link the two things. So the waitlist page and the webinar. Where
Yep.
would you, can people go to both of those? Like, would you suggest that they set their names on the waitlist and that they join your webinar?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think everybody should go to the webinar because
Okay.
when you see the webinar, you'll find out if this is really for you and whether you really want to move forward in this realm. Because some people don't like to record. I mean, recording your own stuff is like, it's the science, whereas the performance is the art. And some people are purely just artists and they don't like doing the recording and the mixing, and it doesn't feel right for them, and that's fine. That's hook yourself up with somebody who prefers to do the recording and the mixing and become a duo, basically, and like help each other.
Oh
But for those
my
that yeah,
God.
but
Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
it's
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's that everybody should do the webinar, and then once you've been to the webinar, you'll know if you want to get on the wait list for this beta course that I'm going to be putting together
Yeah.
in the next couple of months, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. What you just shared, I think there's so much opportunity for my community. So the singers that are in the Singing Insiders, which you describe as the artists, and then the people that go through your course, which you described as the scientists, that they can find buddies and work together because one complements the other so much. So something to think about for moving forward. But I love the idea. I will link to your webinar. I will link to that waitlist page in the description here down below. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap up this conversation?
Um, Well, I mean, yeah, I have a private Facebook group for musicians and vocalists who record their own music at home. So everybody's welcome to, like, you could I'll give you the link to the Facebook group as well, and people can join that.
Beautiful.
And there you might find that person, if you don't want to do the mixing and stuff, you might find that person that helps like make your duo, as it were. And the beauty of the modern world is they could be on the other side of the planet to you. It doesn't matter. It's just all you got to do is send them a digital signal, a digital file, and they can work on your stuff. And you can like video conference across continents like we are now. And there's no limits to it, basically.
Yeah. I love that idea. So that would be a place to connect singers with people that do their mixing.
It's a place for everybody who wants to like record, mix, make music, at home, basically.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share that in the description down below too, then, so that people know where to go. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate the time that you have freed up to talk us through all of this regarding the home recording, what you've shared. You've been so generous in your shares, so thank you. Thank you for sharing your passion for music, for singing, for the music scene and the music world. And I wish you all the best, especially with all the health challenges coming up. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to get to know your audience.